everyone. I'm Alex Evans, editor of Wargamer, and I wish you a warm welcome to the very first Wargamer Direct tabletop video showcase. For 5 years, Wargamer's journalists have brought you the world's best news, reviews, and opinions on all things tabletop games. Our little team gets up every morning with one mission: taking the unique joy that our hobbies give us and putting it into words. Words backed up by experience, hard-earned skill, and proper heart. Written by human beings for human beings. Now, for the first time, we're stepping out from behind those keyboards and teaming up with 2 major publishers for a glorious show and tell extravaganza you won't find anywhere else. Now at Wargamer, we celebrate the whole marvellous spectrum that is tabletop gaming. From the lightest family board game to hardcore hobby wargames. From the mighty Dungeons & Dragons to the floods of incredible indie role-playing games that hit the scene every month. And that's why, for our first ever Wargamer Direct, we've chosen a diverse mix of games from every corner of the table. Over the next half hour, you're going to see love letters to some lesser known but unmissable indie games chosen by my team of fully qualified nerds. You're going to see a fantastical deep dive into Labyrinth Chronicles, a brand new iteration of the beloved board game from Ravensburger 40 years after it first hit shelves. And finally, you're going to see an exclusive world-first preview of what's coming next for the Starcraft Tabletop Miniatures Game. A whole range of never-before-seen future miniatures for 2026's hottest new wargame. It's going to be a seriously special show, and we're able to put it on for you thanks to paid sponsorship from our partners Ravensburger and Archon Studio, and from our show sponsors, Baron of Dice. Now, Baron of Dice is a small business out of Maryland, USA, who make a bewildering array of custom resin wargaming dice themed to complement armies from pretty much any game you like, including officially licensed dice sets for Trench Crusade, War Machine, and Infinity. They even make themed coins to fit all of their game accessories, so your tape measure, your movement gauge, everything can match your army. Huge thanks to Baron of Dice for sponsoring our show. You can go and check them out right after this. For now though, it's time to start our show. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the very first Wargamer Direct.
Hi, Wargamer writer Molly Russell here. We cover the freshest tabletop games from all corners every day. That often means sharing some famous names and faces, but sometimes the most interesting ideas come from independent publishers. I'm passionate about celebrating independent tabletop creators, without whom our industry would not be the thriving artistic space it is today. So, before we get to the really big reveals, I would like to introduce you to Wargamer's Indie Picks, where the team will show off some of the smaller games they've tried, loved, maybe haven't got to write about yet, but definitely want to shout about. Let's take a look.
This is one of the most captivating games I've ever played. One of the most beautiful, and it was designed and illustrated by one guy. The Old King's Crown is the debut game from Pablo Clark. It took him 6 years to make, and it's utterly wonderful. Now, at its core, it's painfully simple. 2 players lay down numbered cards, highest card wins. But there's more. Oh, so much more. See, around that are layers of every deluxious strategy board game mechanic you could wish for. There's deck building, worker placement, card drafting, engine building, even asymmetric factions, and every bit of it adds depth and threat and complexity to that innocent little card game in the middle. Not to mention, it's all drenched in Clark's original amazing artworks. If you only try one new board game from the past year, I think it should be this one.
Got 15 minutes to spare? You should be playing Pacts. It's like a fairy circle. Small, beautiful to behold, and filled with hidden power. You lead an asymmetric faction of Seelie or unseelie Fae, and you're caught in a tense head-to-head for control of the Isles.
Queendom isn't won by slaying troops. Fae are tricksy things, and this is a war of wits.
More specifically, it's a game of I split, you choose. One player divides the pact actions revealed for the round, and the other decides who gets the pile. Each also gets to throw in a sneaky court action from their hand, face down. Then, it's time to face the music. Cubes of influence are carefully placed, moved, and then, though rarely, removed. Scoring takes place after 3 rounds, then again at 6 with higher stakes. It's a bloodless war, but it's no less brutal for it. Pacts is a nail-biter, a game of second-guessing and double-crossing. Every decision you make leaves you going,
Why would you do that?
all it takes is one bad pact to scupper your victory, so pay close attention to what happens on that gorgeous cloth board. The Seelie and unseelie are often seen as a Celtic take on good and evil, the difference between moral and immoral action. Pacts feels profound when you view it as a wrestling match for the morality of society. A few very clever words can lead all mankind down the path of benevolence or malevolence. Got 15 minutes to spare? Duke out this weighty war with Pacts. And then do it again, because DPC Games has made something truly addictive.
Replace the cultists and Cthulhus of Arkham Horror with the Mercs and Megacorps of the cyberpunk setting. Then swap the core gameplay loop with Poker for Cheaters. This is the recipe for Cyberpunk Legends. In this co-op card game, you and 3 tombs will take on missions around the murky underworld of Night City. There are puzzles to solve and choices to make, but when a 9-foot-tall death robot runs into your path, you'll defeat it by assembling the perfect poker hand. These obstacles can be tricky. You may have to fetch up a flush, or several straights in a row. Oh, and did I mention communication with your teammates is severely limited. Luckily, you have cards that will get you thrown out of any casino. They might have multiple suits or numbers, or special abilities that can shake things up. This is the magic of Cyberpunk Legends. When you're faced with a challenge and you're able to overcome it by breaking the rules of poker wide open, it really feels like you've hacked the system.
Doom Spiral is a better Dark Souls RPG than the actual Dark Souls RPG. It just doesn't have the license, but it's got the vibes. I'm talking dying world, tactical combat, weird chuckling NPCs, glowy respawn points. You know what a Souls-like is. Stamina dice are at the heart of this system. Dice you spend to deal damage or dodge or parry or block, and your equipment dictates how easy those actions are. So yeah, it's got fat rolling. There's no grid for movement, but it's not pure theatre of the mind. Every character has a position score. The lower it is, the more likely it is an enemy will target you. But you do have to spend it if you want to use your best abilities. And recovering it, it's going to cost more stamina. And it gets used creatively. So AoEs, they might hit a run of consecutive position scores. Or if you're in a classic Miyazaki poison swamp, you're going to fall in if your position score gets too low. Now, I ran the Quick Start adventure for this in October last year. Immediately backed the Kickstarter, and since then I've been waiting by my mail slot like a lonely dog, which is kind of silly because after a few delays, the PDF rulebook is due by the end of summer. The Quick Start rules are also already up on the Soul Muppet Publishing website, so if it sounds cool, just give it a go.
Thanks to games like these, the tabletop scene is more exciting than ever before. Now though, we go from the small to the big. I'll let Alex tell you the rest.
It's now time for the first of our big featured games. And honestly, big is a good word to use here. Founded over 120 years ago, Ravensburger is a titan of the board game world. The magical family board game Labyrinth, one of Ravensburger's most popular and longest ongoing game series, is a gigantic name in itself. This year, Labyrinth is celebrating its 40th anniversary, having sold over 30 million copies worldwide since it first launched. And Labyrinth Chronicles, the game's newest version, hitting stores this year, is bigger than ever. Now, the pathways still shift and slide just like they did in 1986, but its walls, portals, and adventurers have been reborn as beautifully sculpted 3D pieces. And a co-op campaign brings a modern twist to the traditional gameplay. This game made over $2 million in crowdfunding, and it's about to release in stores. So it's high time we took a tour. Grab your burning torches, folks. We are going in. Thomas, let's talk a little bit about the history of Labyrinth, the board game. The original Labyrinth was published by Ravensburger as, I believe, as Das verrückte Labyrinth back in 1986. What was the creation process of that original board game?
The game was invented by Max Kobbert, who is professor for psychology, and he invented a game because he was so inspired from Labyrinth in his childhood, but he was also a little bit frustrated in the sense of if he finds the way through the labyrinth, it was done. And this inspired him to create a board game because he wants to have something where the labyrinth is always changing. Normally you have a static board where you as a player move with your figurine. With a labyrinth, you first move your tile and then you walk with your figurine. And this was, I would say at that time, a great innovation in the board game market that the board is changing always.
Ravensburger began working with Awakened Realms on Labyrinth Chronicles a couple of years ago for its 2025 launch on GameFound. Why is now the time to reinvent this board game from 1986?
Of course, we celebrate the 40th year of Labyrinth. So we thought it's wise now to evolve or develop the game in an audience which want to deep more into a labyrinth. With Chronicles, we have now a kind of, it's not really a legacy game, but it's somehow a campaign game where you develop yourself as a player with the game. In the normal labyrinth, you play competitive, now you play cooperative. We have now a very story immersive driven game.
So Labyrinth Chronicles is aiming, as you say, at this very wide target audience. And that's going to give a very different experience at one end of that spectrum for, you know, a family of two parents and two young children, and then at the other end a group of 4 20 to 30-year-old hobbyists at a board game club. Can you give me an idea of why it's perfect for both of those groups?
I read a lot of the comments on GameFound where they say, this was the game of my childhood, and I'm happy now to have a cooperative gameplay which I can play with my friends, which are hobby gamers. So this is, I would say, a perfect fit. So you have our normal labyrinth is flat. Now we have 3D walls where you can experience finding your path. Then also on 3D we have huge and amount of figurines in this a game. The dragon comes to life. We have the goblins, which are a little bit the opponent during that game. We have some portals which you have to open and stuff. So the whole labyrinth comes alive.
Let's talk a little bit more about that campaign experience. After each game, you'll open a new box of additions that changes your tactical options, increases certain challenges along the way as well. How does that affect the in-game decisions, also the difficulty, and where the fun comes from as well as the campaign goes along?
The great thing is, as they play cooperative, you can discuss with each other how to reach now the next level or my next mission. I would say the fun comes out of the labyrinth is challenging the players all the time. And then, and this is the great thing, if you reach a certain level, you can open a package and you get other missions, other things, which you have to reach during the game. I can tell you we will have in total 12 different packages, 12 different missions you can fulfill or you can reach. I would say it's a really immersive 3D experience, which is much more story driven than the normal labyrinth.
I like that. Now, obviously without spoilers, but I am going to ask you, can you give us a sense of what, just a couple of the kind of game changers that players can expect to come out of these boxes?
You will find in this package always things which you can use during the gameplay, which enriches also the story-driven game. So for example, we have, let's say, magnets in that game. I'm not saying for what you need these magnets, but there is much more which you would expect in a kind of hobby gameplay.
As you said, one of the distinctive things about this is that it's not a traditional legacy game. How has Chronicles been designed to ensure that that story, that campaign, is still fun the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth time that you play it?
In a legacy game, you destroy, you put something out. This will not happen in that game. So you say maybe, oh, we reached the third level, but let's play this again because we like what happens there. We think this game has the potential to be a forever game in all the game wardrobes people have at home.
I mean, the next thing I was going to say is let's crystallize the one-line pitch for Labyrinth Chronicles, but I think you just gave me that. That was pretty great. When exactly will fans be able to pick up Labyrinth Chronicles on shelves?
On shelf, we will have the games ready in fall this year.
So Thomas, we've talked a little bit about the extreme amount of history, not only that this game has in itself, but in the childhood memories of, as you said, millions upon millions upon millions of people worldwide, 70 different countries. That might feel like a bit of pressure to create a very different, new, larger version of that game. How does it feel for you and your team kind of carrying forward that legacy with this new game?
It's somehow an honor driving the most successful board game brand from Ravensburger into new adventures. But it's also a little bit part of my job to develop board games into the other direction. That's why we have in this birthday year, let's say, somehow this really big birthday cake where we have the Labyrinth Chronicles, which we talked about. But we have also on the other side, coming also this year on the market, the Carcassonne Labyrinth. It opens us new possibilities and really something I really love and appreciate, developing such a brand. I like this challenge. It brings me fun and it motivates me every day coming to work, because this is fun, doing something which finds the pleasure of the players and the consumers.
And when the passageways change every day. Well, Thomas, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming to talk to us about Labyrinth Chronicles today and the history of this incredible board game. So, we've toured Wargamer's indie favourites, we've braved the Labyrinth, but our show is not over yet. The Starcraft tabletop miniatures game has taken the hobby world by storm in the last year. We weren't expecting it. You weren't expecting it, but Archon Studio has turned Blizzard's classic strategy game into a full-blown tabletop wargame with some of the best miniatures in the business. The game's starter sets and unit packs full of Terrans, Zerg and Protoss are winging their way to stores worldwide right now. But today, we're unspeakably excited to share with you a world-exclusive first look at what comes next. Jarek, we're about to reveal to the world the second wave of miniatures for Starcraft, a game that you've wanted to make forever. First question, how do you feel?
Honestly, it still feels like a kind of little unreal. The video PC game is the game I love as a kid. I mean, I still love it. And I dreamed about its miniature version for years. The first wave was actually us saying that we can do this. So the second wave is us saying, and now we are not slowing down. You're not supposed to pick your favorite child, right? But I love it. I'll be honest with you, Starcraft is not just my favorite one. It's the reason that the company actually exists.
And of course, this year that the main first wave of Starcraft and whatever comes next is starting to arrive. It's the same year that another company is releasing a new edition of Warhammer 40,000, the biggest war game in the world. How has that affected its progress, do you think, this year? How's that affected the launch?
We definitely respect 40K a lot. It is giant and it's great for the whole hobby. Obviously, we're not trying to beat anyone. We're just trying to make the best Starcraft miniatures games we can on our own pace.
So for fans who are maybe on the fence about where to put their cash, whether they want to give StarCraft a try, whether they want to get into Warhammer, what does StarCraft offer that they won't get in Warhammer 40K?
It plays differently than 40K. StarCraft uses escalation rules. You start with no models on the table and your army grows turn by turn. It's just like building up your base and your forces in the video game alone. Players also take alternating activations, so you're always doing something, always reacting. You are never just sitting and watching your opponent play a long turn.
What's the main theme behind this range that's being added to the game?
Wave 2 is about two things, right? So one is heavy hitters and area control. On the heavy side, you get units like Immortal and then Siege Tank, big models that hit hard and change the shape of the fight. But the real story is actually control. With the Ravager and its ability and Siege Tank in the Siege mode, the message to your opponent is simple. Your models are not safe anywhere. Wave 2 is where the game gets tense in the best way. The new wave forces players to think more, move more, and take risks.
Let's start with the gribbliest and scribbliest on offer, the Zerg Ravager. Tell us about the Zerg Ravager and how that's going to play in the game.
So yeah, Ravager is mainly about making your opponent unconfrontable. So its main trick is actually corrosive bile. So you drop this bile token on the battlefield, and at the end of the phase, anything standing near to the tokens takes damage. On top of that, it has the range attack, the plasma discharge. And the big one is actually a deep tunnel. So you can move underground with deep tunnel rules. So it pops up where you want, where it's not really expected to be. So it is flexible unit, it can shot you, it can deny your space, it can surprise you basically. So that's very Zergish.
Gone from the gribbliest to the chonkiest. This is an incredibly chonky model, the Terran Siege Tank. Jarek, tell us about this one. How does this great big block of a thing destroy its enemies?
I think this is the most anticipated model at the moment. Siege Tank is your big damage dealer, right? It's the unit which says basically do not come this way. So, and it has two modes. In a normal mode, it can move and shoot with its twin cannons, like in a video game. So it is mobile and still dangerous, but the real fun actually is in the siege mode. So you lock it down, it cannot move, obviously, but now it fires with the shock cannon at the long range and hits a whole area. It's a dual kit, so in the box you get the options for both looks, the mobile tank and the deployed siege mode version, but you build just one. That does not lock you out of any game rules. In the game you can still switch between the tank mode and the siege mode during the play.
Okay, so I think it's time to move on to the Protoss. We have two new Protoss models to show today. I'm going to start with the Immortal.
Immortal is your shielded wall. It is a tough Protoss unit that walks forward and soaks up damage while firing back. Its signature trick is shielded. So while it's shielded up, with the improved barrier skill, even the biggest, hardest hits get reduced down to almost nothing. But there is a catch, as it is in the video game. The shield is strong against the big units and a single hit, but lots of the small attacks can still wear it down. On offensive, it carries two photon disruptors, very powerful guns. You basically push it forward and let it tank the scary weapons. As well, just behind it, you put all of the rest of the units.
So alongside the Immortal, the Protoss are also getting, if I'm correct, a completely new and different miniature for Zeratul. This is a new boxed kit, is that right?
Zeratul was originally released as the demo model, as a promo model or pre-release model. So now we want to bring it back and give the rules to that model. It's not supporting unit, it's a combat unit, so it's a combat character or hero. It's got lots of skills to get him into combat, like a blink for instance. It's got lots of skills for the combat itself to increase his combat output. Him itself is allowing to control a little bit of enemy units, but in the same time being quite powerful and combat hero.
Well, we have one last Starcraft Miniatures Game model to reveal from Wave 2 that people haven't seen before, and it's the biggest one yet. It's absolutely humongous. Talk to us about the Lost Temple ramp.
I mean, Lost Temple map is one of my favorite maps from Starcraft. That's why we started. So we started with Lost Temple terrain first. Obviously, we're going to be adding more terrain to it. That was one of the biggest requirements from the fans and from the beta test we did like in April and March of this year, when the question was when size 3 terrain will be available. So we said, yes, we're going to make it as soon as possible. So being size 3 terrain means it's going to block quite a lot of line of sight for anything bigger, like Queen, for instance, or Goliath. The other thing is a ramp. So For the close combat unit to get up on the ramp, you just have to use the ramp itself, and not the main platform. It might create choke points, and that's what we want. I mean, choke points in the Starcraft, they were very, very important. So I believe that will be, you know, seen on tables. So just imagine having your Marines on top of the ramp itself with some medics behind it and waves of Zerglings trying to reach them and going up the ramp, and you just basically shoot them constantly. As I said, we want to replicate as much video game as possible on a tabletop miniatures game and give that exactly the same feeling.
Jarek, we've just seen 5 massive new miniatures for Starcraft the Miniatures Game. Which is your favourite?
Well, my favourite one is actually Ravager, I would say. I'm Zerg player, so I have to say Ravager. Otherwise Overmind is not going to be happy with me. So it's changed the completely meta for Zerg. I mean, all the releases changed the meta for all the factions, but the Zerg needed a little bit of area control. So that's what I think it's going to bring on the table. So yeah, that's Ravager.
And which would you be most afraid to see in your opponent's list?
It's a siege tank. So as a Zerg player, it's a siege tank. Siege tank's got specific rules, quite nice rules, could reach our almost entire table in a siege mode. I mean, I'm finding a way how to counter it, and I love it because it just makes you build your army list and your strategy, and it brings a lot of diversity in your army because you have to have those units which are going to be good to counter the siege tank as well.
Physically, these miniatures are large. Starcraft has bigger things than that. I wonder if there's any chance in the future we might see the really big stuff, like an Ultralisk or a Thor.
I mean, yeah. I mean, come on. It's like, first of all, I am the Zerg player. I've got to make. I want to see my Ultralisk on the table, and how cool it's gonna be to see, you know, Ultralisk charging Archon or even Thor and just fighting. I mean, just have that massive battles on your table with those massive, large models. Yeah.
Well, a Wave 2 implies the existence of a Wave 3. I'm sure you'll agree. Jarek, tell us what's coming next to the game, please.
Wave 3, it's all about the casters and the new heroes. So when we're talking about the new casters, we're talking about the Raven, we're talking about the Nova, the Terran character, we're talking about the Defiler and Zagara, and High Templar and Tassadar. So how they're gonna work on a table? I mean, just play video game. The Heavy Hitters Wave, how we call it this one, it will create new ways of playing, and the following one with the casters will shift everything completely again to something different in different ways. I'm very excited for all the waves, but the casters is the one I'm really waiting for. I just want my Defiler, you know? I just want my Defiler.
I have one last question for you, Jarek, and that is, when can people buy these Wave 2 miniatures?
So we're looking at starting pre-orders around about late August. You will be able to see all those expansions at Gen Con, and then shipping around about the end of September.
Well, there you have it, folks. I've been Alex Evans. This has been Jarek Evetowski. Thank you so much for your time today. And there we have it, folks. 4 brilliant indie games for your table, a 40th anniversary deep dive into Labyrinth Chronicles, and a world-exclusive first look at 5 superb future Starcraft miniatures. Now that's our show, but we've got a ton more insider info on all the games we showed today on wargamer.com, including the rules for those Starcraft minis. Go check that out right after this, but there's more. There's even more going on in the Wargamer Discord community right now. We've got giveaways to celebrate this direct and lively hobby discussions every single day, so join that for free right now. And finally, a huge thanks once again to our guests, Archon Studio and Ravensburger, and to our show sponsor, Baron of Dice. You can check out all the rad things that they make on baronofdice.com. And this isn't even the end. You can look forward to more Wargamer Directs soon, revealing the biggest and best in tabletop games for your viewing pleasure. But for now, friends, thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.